whenever there's a civil
I'm glad it's not just me stumbling over words.
I know. What's happening today?
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect your patients day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right.
Time is running out to get into our 2025 PriceTech Bootcamp. So you better sign up now. May 13th through 16th, we'll be at the Evergreen Resort Conference Center in Stone Mountain, Georgia. That's a mouthful. Oh, man. So let's talk a little bit about what people should consider and what are they going to learn at this bootcamp.
Yeah, it's we have a theme for every day so that we can focus the learning instead of bouncing all over like we would normally do. We start with You've Got to Prove It Day, which explains why documentation matters and how to do it and where you need to do it. The big thing is not just giving you a list of things to do, but actually trying to help you understand what that list means and some different techniques to get through them and some ideas. Regardless of where you are or what your job is, if you're in that mix of being on that compliance team and the cybersecurity team, whichever, where you're documenting things, or you should be documenting things, you will learn why. And then we go through those things. And so that's Tuesday, I think. What are the days, David? I don't even know. There's one day that it's that. That's usually where we start. Then there's a risky business day.
Yeah, so that's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Risky business.
And guess what we're covering there?
Slide in your underwear?
Yeah, that's how we come in with our Ray-Bans on and
Yeah. So talking about risk analysis and security analysis, security risk assessments, however you want to.
All the different things
Gap
about
analysis.
managing. Yeah. All the different things about managing risk and the processes that have to do with that. So yeah, how do you actually do a risk analysis? What a great idea. Let's go through how to do one, David.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the day we top everything off with the Bourbon and Breeches happy hour.
Yes. And whether people want to believe it or not, until you see it, it's hard to get it. But I do manage to teach you about bourbon and whiskey in general and do a tasting explaining, about a particular bourbon that we're tasting and match it to a data breach story. And I do somehow manage to do that. Now, if you came last year, I don't know, maybe I'll do what I did last year. I really liked how it was so smooth how it worked out. Plus, it was so smooth drinking those bourbons. But, that
might be what we change our podcast to. Just change the whole podcast to Bourbon and Breeches.
Ooh, I could do that. That's a thought.
Everybody grab a bourbon and we'll discuss breeches as we go through our bourbon.
Yeah, I like that idea. We might have to do a few episodes of that. Just test it.
There you go.
But that's how we end that day, just to, still learning, just trying to do something fun with it and showing you all the different ways. Yeah, I'm not saying you go to the office and do a Bourbon and Breeches happy hour, but I am saying be creative about how you train people, which is what we're talking about.
Yep.
And no, you don't have to taste the bourbon. Many people do not. David's afraid of that brown water. He ain't touching it.
Yeah, we got a bad history. I'll just say it that way.
And it can go well anytime. All right, and then what's the next day is...
so the next one is PriceTech is a team sport.
Yeah, which is all about working together and how we all have to participate in doing the work of cybersecurity. Privacy and security is not something, that's an IT problem. That's a legal problem. all of us have to participate or it ain't going to work, which is why we're having such a problem these days.
Yep. And we'll introduce HICAP and talk about how to implement that and what those threats are, how OCR investigations work. Yeah, good stuff on that day.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting details. And, throughout all of this, we're going to blend in all of the proposed changes. We're not going to focus on them. We're going to include them along the way. So any area where there are proposed changes, we're going to discuss them and how they would impact you and how they would change what you're required to do and what we recommend you do in the interim, where we are right now. What should you be doing now, knowing there's so many proposals out there? So we're going to go through that in all of the discussions over the 4 days, which is day number 4.
Yeah, day number 4, Murphy's Law Day. I wonder what that means.
Yeah, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, right?
Absolutely.
So it's all about disaster recovery, business continuity, incident response, building a plan. If you don't have a plan, you have no idea how bad it's going to be. Even with a plan, it's not something that most people are like, I can't believe that's not in our plan, even when they have a plan, because something always happens. And we go through like a live tabletop exercise where you participate, everyone participates, and we're able to do it so that you learn all the things you got to worry about. You're doing it yourself. And it makes it a little bit more because we have so much information we're cramming in. We like to be a little bit more interactive on that last morning because that makes sure you wake up. And then we end with helping you review your action plan. What is your action plan for the next 3 quarters or the rest of this year? Or at least, what is your action plan for the next 90 days? You leave, and we want you to leave. We actively participate in getting you to that point. So 4 full days, very intense, no time to play golf. Like, it's not a conference. People are like, it's not a conference, is it? No. That's why we call it a boot camp.
That's right.
So there you have it.
That's right. Yep. And you can find out more at PrisecBootcamp.com. That is PRISEC.com. And just remember, folks, when something bad happens, you will not rise to the occasion. You will fall to your level of preparation.
Oh,
and we'll help you with that.
Good one.
All right. Let's dive into the HIPAA briefs because OCR last week initiated, not initiated, they announced that there was the 53rd right of access. What do you want to call it? Payment?
Well, it's a penalty, a civil money penalty.
Yeah, civil money penalty was announced. So, but $200,000 was the payment. Woo.
So they probably were like, "Oh, that's cheaper," and I bet they're going to make their business associate pay it. That may be the deal they've worked out with the business associate, but it does make me wonder about a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, it's the right of access thing. I mean, this has been going on since 2019. 53 of them. They're like, people, please, get the message. So in this one, so when the civil money penalties happen, they do the announcement of, hey, this is closed, and they publish their notice of proposed determination, which is what's sent, that says, hey, these are the things we found. We think that we're going to hit you with this penalty. Would you like a review by an administrative law judge? Would you do, those kind of things? And then you get to respond. And if you don't respond or you say, nah, we're good, then they send the final determination letter and you're supposed to stroke the check. So that's kind of what happened. And in the notice of proposed determination, that's where you get the details. And so this goes to a complaint they got. And again, This is where you're likely, everybody's like, well, I'm not going to have a breach. I don't have to worry about it. No, you could get a complaint that lures you into an investigation. So, complaint filed in January 2021 from a patient's personal representative. Now, this was the second complaint on the same case. And what happened is they asked for the records, got partial records, said these are not complete, give us the rest, and then ended up in a loop. So April 2019, they got the partial records, and they didn't get the complete record until like 300 and something days later. Well past 30 days, wow. I would say.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And, so they're like, okay, well, that you shouldn't do. So this is the hard part. Is at the first complaint, they're like, okay, these are the rules. You should be following them. And they call that, what do they call it? Technical guidance or technical assistance. Mm-hmm. What they're basically saying is you're screwing up and here's what you should be doing. Great. I think that's when people should do it. I don't know about you, but in any case, that didn't happen because they ended up filing another complaint, and that's how we ended up where we are today. And we do have our quote from the acting director, the arch evil. There you go, David. Hit us with the quote.
The HIPAA privacy rule requires that individuals and their personal representatives receive timely access to their medical records. A covered entity's responsibility to provide timely access continues even when a covered entity contracts with a business associate to respond to HIPAA right of access requests.
And that made me go, business associate. And it is another entity. I don't remember the name of them now. But so here's the thing. They get the request for the records along with a power of attorney showing I am the personal representative. You should send it to me in electronic format, blah, 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 blah. Do it this way. Mm-hmm. Here's anyway, let me first say. So the BA's handling the record request. All looks good, but they send them the partial. They come back and say, wait, this isn't complete. And, and even, the Oregon Health and Science University agree. It was a valid request. There was nothing wrong. The records were incomplete. They sent back another valid request, but this time the BA denies them and says, no, you don't have a valid date on your request, which is not even remotely close because you know it was the same. And you don't have a valid
year before
date.
The month.
I know. And this is a patient personal representative requesting it. So it's not, these hardcore authorizations. You don't have a valid date. And they're like, the very next day, they're like, no, they fax over and say, that's invalid. That's not true. And then they get a response that they're being denied for not paying an invoice for medical records. Ding, ding, ding. Now we know. The business associates trying to get paid. And it kept going back and forth from there for a long time. And that's when the second complaint landed in 2021, which is when OCR came in and said, what up? That's wrong. No. Mm-hmm. And everything you've done is wrong. But what I think it seems to be to me is that an attorney has finally found a way around the medical records request that drives them nuts. And I have no idea why attorneys hate this so much, that when they want a copy sent to them that comes straight to them so that they've got the chain of evidence, whatever, not getting it from the patient, and they have to pay $25 in the state of Georgia, and most states have a limit on what they have to pay, but that's it. and somebody's got to go, make that happen. Approve it. Somebody's still got to look and make sure this is right and you should do this and blah, blah, blah. There's plenty of steps. And, I don't know what it costs, but it costs something, and that's not built into their cost. And, you get cuts constantly in what's going to be covered, and they don't want to pay that. The attorneys do not want to pay that. They want to get it for free because, I don't know. But I think that they finally found a way, which is, I believe, now, do I know this for sure? No. But what it does say is that it was the power of attorney personal representative asking for it and didn't. I think it is one of the attorneys has gotten their patient to give them a power of attorney to request their medical records so they could do it as a personal representative, which then allows them to get it for free under, the patient right of access.
They're spending $100 to avoid 25.
Right. Yeah. So they have the patient, is having to pay the cost of getting that drawn up and done, which is probably more than what the invoice is. But for some reason, I don't get it. But I think that may be what has happened here. And if it is, nice play, because it works under the rules. If you're the personal representative, you operate as the patient. So, nice play. Anyhow, $200K, cha-ching.
But yet another reminder, make sure that you get the records out to the patients within a timely manner.
Complete. In this case, they did the first part, but then they didn't want to give them whatever they held back. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't a complete record, and they knew that.
All right, buckle up, Buttercup. It's time to get the ball rolling faster because we got a lot to cover.
Okay, let's hit it.
All right, let's talk about an interesting quick note about technical staff as an insider threat.
Oh, this one's just an article that I'm like, OMG. I mean,
yeah, this one's funny, kind of,
and terrifying at the same time for you people like us. So it's a company that they employ technical staff that can do scripting and all kinds of little development stuff, right? You've got folks that can do that, right, David?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they work for you. This guy apparently was constantly in trouble, and they were going through some restructuring. You know how that goes. And he knew his time was coming because clearly he had issues. There's a lot to the story, but he created what they're calling like a kill switch or a dead man switch, this article called it, that would lock every employee out of their account if his credentials were revoked. and even named the code that was sitting in there. Is Davis Liu enabled in Active Directory? And it would look and see, and if he wasn't, then it just locked them all out. So he's terminated, and it activates this thing. Thousands of employees around the world are locked out of their network. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to recover it. It's huge. So because he had it set, and I mean, that's pretty wicked right there. Now, on the flip side, for all you technical people think that might be cool, he's been found guilty of tampering with computer systems by the jury, and he's awaiting sentencing to see if he gets the full 10 years or less. Yeah. So
that's
two
rough,
things.
especially considering that's probably something that sounds like I would do.
Back in the day, for sure.
Yeah, way back in the day.
So for all of you who think you don't have to worry about insiders and especially technical people, wrong. And for all you technical people that think that this would be cool to do, maybe for a minute, but then wrong. So there you go.
Yeah, it would be cool if you could do it and then have like some kind of like quick undo button.
Yeah. And then it does it, and then within like an hour, it turns them all back on and says, "Psych."
Yeah.
Something like that.
Oh man,
No.
that's it's a genius move, even though it's going to cost them some time.
A lot. And maybe
not so genius, maybe stupid, but Either way, pretty kind of funny. I often say, the nerds control the world.
Definitely so. The geek have inherited the earth.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple of terrifying technical
Think about
things.
nerds. Speaking of nerds.
Yeah. So this one's interesting. We often talk about Bluetooth devices and, how dangerous they are, how you should use them and not use them. It's quite a conundrum.
Yes, it is.
When you really think about it, because so many things connect over Bluetooth nowadays.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there's probably more that connects to Bluetooth than you really even know you have laying around.
and I think people don't, they call Bluetooth a personal area network, right? It's a PAN, not a LAN.
Right.
That anything within that, realm can connect and stay connected until you leave it. If you've ever walked away from your phone when you're on your headphones and forget that you're talking to somebody on them, and then you walk down the hall and you're like, oh, sorry, run back within. So anything within that.
It's like, well, I'm on the phone talking to somebody on my cell phone. My wife jumps in my car to run to the store. Next thing I know, I can't talk on the cell phone anymore because it connected to the car. But it reminds me too, like the last time I bought a car, I turned the radio on to pair my phone, and there's like half a dozen other phones in there.
Oh, I know.
People forget to unpair their device.
That's
all kind of things.
When I rent a car, the first thing I do is go in and delete all the other devices, and then add mine, and then I delete mine, before getting out of the car. But yeah, I know that I'm going to have to do that in every rental. And it's got contacts in there for most people. Whoever was the last person, sometimes others.
I know. We should start calling people.
I know. Just, hey, how you doing? Anyway, so the Bluetooth thing, this one is particularly terrifying. The good news is researchers have found it. It's not, somebody's done it, as far as it's not a known actively being used, but nobody's been looking for this. So it probably
will be now.
It probably is being used. They discovered that in these ESP32 chips, which are widely used for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in IoT devices. So all kinds of IoT devices, like a lot of them. In fact, I think they said it was like, I don't know, 1 million and something. I don't know, a bunch. And it is significant because they found 29 undocumented commands that they are collectively characterizing as a backdoor, which apparently the company Espressif in China is not liking it that they're calling it a backdoor. But it does allow you to do memory manipulation, MAC address spoofing, all kinds of really technical, nerdy things that you don't want it to be able to mess with.
Let's not call it a backdoor. Let's call it an Easter egg.
Easter eggs are supposed to be fun and funny.
Depends on what side you're on.
I know, right? So this maybe have been being used. Who knows? They're going to find out. I know they'll find out now. But it lets you use this Wi-Fi, these devices to do things that you should not be doing. And they're like never been publicly documented. So it's now logged. And the company says that in response to these findings, that these were used for debug commands for internal testing and not for anything else. So they're not saying we didn't intend for them to be released, which is, if that's really what they were, they should have been shut off in the, production, but it's out there and everything. It's there. So, and this is fairly new stuff, and it is not comforting. Now, best case scenario, they can't find anything using it.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to hope for. That's our only hope.
Otherwise, you're going to be buying a bunch of new devices.
I know, because I mean, so many of those devices, they don't update the firmware. You know, and I check all of mine. I make sure, and I know you do too, but most people have no clue that that's a thing. You know,
let me ask you this: do you do this when, like, you check one? Let's say you check it, and it's been 6 months, and you check it, and there's no updates, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why are there no updates?
And then you go look and make sure there's not any.
I know. Yeah.
I'm not trusting the app to tell me.
I've got the router internet modem thing for my ISP, and it never has a firmware update.
No.
I'm like, I don't like this thing.
Yeah. That's why I just kind of run everything through to another one that gets plenty of updates and monitors things. And my Ubiquity dream machine. It's a dream. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. And then the researchers in another group of researchers found another thing that, first of all, you just loved it because it's the term polymorphic was included. I know.
Yeah. I mean, anytime I can use that term.
Yeah, you're in it. They expose new polymorphic attacks that clone browser extensions to steal credentials. So they get in and have a little script running. I would be freaking out if this wasn't something the researchers just found. That if they had found it with someone actively using it, and who knows, they may actually be doing it. But it like goes in and looks at your browser extensions and then morphs itself into an extension that can get credentials, right?
Yeah. It changes to look just like one of the extensions in your browser.
It switches itself to look like it and in the browser so that when you click it, the extension is still working like it's supposed to, but they're also able to work in there at the same time. And they point out the polymorphic extension attack, which, first of all, they've got to come up with something that you can't say that over and over. I don't know. They got to work it out. PME?
The PEA.
I don't know. There'll be something. We can't keep saying polymorphic extension attack. Is extremely powerful as it exploits the human tendency to rely on visual cues as a confirmation. In this case, the extension icons on a pinned bar are used to inform users of the tools they are interacting with. And it just kind of goes up there and looks like one. It's not good. Not good.
Yeah, but this is part of we talked about this in a previous episode about these extensions because most people don't look at that. Like if you ask somebody, what software do you have installed on your computer? They don't look at the extensions. And that is software installed on your computer. And a lot of tools don't even look at that stuff, depending on what you're using. Most MSPs can probably find that information out for you and keep track of it, but a lot of things don't. And that's a good question to ask. Mr. MSP or IT person in your department, I understand that you're looking at the vulnerabilities and updates and all that for software, but what about browser extensions? Are you also looking at that?
What's your guess the answer would be?
I'm going to say right now it's probably a toss-up 50-50.
Big fat no.
Probably.
Big fat no.
If I'm leaning toward reality, probably no.
Yeah. I mean, not all tools would allow you to do that MSPs use.
No. And some of them don't tell you whether or not they're in date or out of date or whatever. They just tell you they're there. So you have no way of knowing. You're just like, hey, this is there. And as an MSP, I don't know if you're supposed to have that or not most of the time. Now, in some cases, I can look at it for example, we ran a report last week on a client and I was like, I don't think they should have the Honey coupon app on their browser. I get it. This is the owner, but probably shouldn't do that. And I send them a thing. We highly recommend you remove this extension from your browser. If you don't want to remove it, completely up to you. Just sign this form saying that you have denied the recommendations we're making.
There you go. And it's unfortunate that you have to have them do that, but you should. Everybody should do that. So when we're looking at this and we're thinking, how many extensions are out there? I do appreciate that the browser developers, so the Firefox, the Opera, Chrome, Brave, all the different browsers, and there are many of them now, they are putting things in place where they're creating some rules that the extensions have to follow, and if they don't follow them, they're out. And so there's some that I've used, they go with software that I subscribe to. It's not just Joe Blow made it. I actually pay for them. But even then, some of them get kicked out and they have to put in new ones that meet those requirements. So highly recommend you start asking that question and at least make sure they meet the requirements, because you don't have to throw them out. You could keep turning them back on every time it turns them off, at least for now.
Yeah.
So,
and just as a side note, we're not disparaging anybody named Joe Blow.
No, sorry, Joe. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. All right.
All right, let's get to the a cyber threat report. So this one is from SonicWall. I think this might be the first one that has this year in it, the 2025
yeah
cyber threat report.
Yeah, so it's looking at what happened in 2024, but you get the partner version of it. We give you the link to the executive summary on the SonicWall website, but David gets, the detailed Mac Daddy because, he's that cool.
Yeah, I get the inside scoop.
Yeah, but there's some really additionally terrifying things. And it's bad when our whole day is reading things that make us feel worse about what we know. So don't think you're the only one that's feeling that. We're not excited to share this with you. We are excited to do the show, but we're not in any way, shape, or form happy about this.
Yeah. Well, you and I talked about this last week, that as cyber defenders, we often wonder, are we making a difference? And the only thing I can say is, how bad would it be if we weren't trying at all?
I know.
Because even with trying, it's still not great.
Yeah. If you see all of this, it's so here, let's hit some big numbers first, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the detail. 61% of the time, hackers leverage a new exploit code within 48 hours.
Yeah. Which is to say, for those who aren't paying attention to what new exploits are out there, you're way behind.
Well, we just told you about 2.
Exactly.
TikTok.
I know. But for those folks that are like, oh, I can do my own IT.
It's way more complicated than, people think because it's easier now to make things work than it used to be, that it's not so. Where it used to be complicated because you had to do dip switches and PCI cards and, get them all configured right and get them in there and you take it all apart. That was complicated. Most people are like, I'm not touching that. Right. So, but now you don't have to do that. You don't even have to put a card in your phone anymore. It's,
I know.
So it seems so easy, but in exchange for that ease, you have a lot more to worry about in security and software because it's being done by software and accessing all of these details. So the minute something new comes out, within 48 hours, and there's some cases they do it in less than 48 hours. That's the 61% of the time.
Yeah, which is a good question to ask your IT provider. Like, how are you staying up to date on new exploits?
Because they're pretty quick. And for me and you, we're going to say, I stay up to date. I watch as many as I can, but I also count on my vendors. And that's why I use these tools and have all these layers of security that have to work in conjunction with it. And there are things one will find that another one won't. We see that all the time. But, I've got so many things turned on, and I still freak out if I see one little thing that looks odd. And that's my little bitty network. But anyway, so yes, you want to know. Here's the other thing. Going back to our Bluetooth discussion a minute ago, IoT attacks went up globally by 124% year over year. Cha-ching. And we'll get into the details of that.
I wish I could grow my business 124% a year.
I know, right? Now, and here's, this is the really terrifying thing is SonicWall identified 210,258 never before seen malware variants in 2024. So that means every single day they discovered 637 new variants of malicious software. Every single day.
Every day. So wow.
Imagine if you're in healthcare, you get it. So whether it's, you track diseases or the flu or whatever, every day you get 637 new variants to figure out and treat.
Yeah. Now you know why we are struggling.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah. I mean, the title of this report was we need speed and allies. It is by far getting worse while everybody's distracted. And the more distracted people are, the worse it's going to be. So,
yeah. Just think of the time it took us to record this podcast, there's 50 new variants.
Okay, so getting into some detail about how all that works out, they talk about ransomware first because we all know it's, the granddaddy of them all. I remember you when we're talking about the report and I think your voice went up a little bit in octave when you were reading the average ransomware overall cost. And now this is global. This is looking at global. This is not looking at, just certain sectors or, different parts of the world globally. SonicWall is not a small company. They have a lot of things they track. Go ahead, David. Try to say it again.
Well, it says that the average ransomware payment has then reached $850,700 for the average payment, but the total related losses is 4.91 million when you factor in things like downtime and other recovery costs. That's the average.
Ow.
So for those of you who are like, yeah, I'll take my chances and just pay whatever.
Yeah. They'll be like, I'm going to take my chances and worry about getting a slap on the wrist for compliance. That is not what you should worry about.
No.
It is like the last thing. It's the tiny piece that goes at the very end years from now. And I try to tell people that. So
and I don't understand why every so often I run into this. Somebody will say, well, I don't want to do XYZ security because either A, it's too complicated, which usually it's not, or B, it's like, that's going to cost me another $100 a month. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but you're going to have your security completely flushed down the toilet because you don't want to spend an extra $100 a month. I don't want to secure this extra device. I only use it every so often. I don't want to do anything on it. But I don't get it. I don't get it. When you look at these numbers, it's like, it makes no sense.
Yeah. And to only exacerbate this part of reading this part of the report. And while ransomware certainly affected industries across the board, healthcare was hit particularly hard with major impacts and catastrophic consequences. That is absolutely true.
And this is not a healthcare report.
No. But it was singled out, just like always, being singled out. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's not bad enough. Double and triple extortion is becoming the standard in healthcare.
Yes. So for those who
you
don't
will get
get
frequent flyer miles.
Now, we've already mentioned once you pay, that makes you more likely to get hit because they then sell your information to the other ransomware gangs. So there's that. And they, just assume you're not going to lock it down because you paid, So you pay one fee to decrypt everything, another fee for them to not release the data they stole because they're honest criminals. And a third one to not notify your patients.
It's almost like booking a flight. You got to pay one fee for the flight, one fee for the second bag, one fee for the.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Now, I said that one time. I told, this was a year or more ago, when I said in a session I was doing that was my real concern. That they would start threatening to notify the patients because then you're backed into a corner.
Yeah.
And so there are cases where they are starting to do that. And that's another reason you don't want to get hit. It's not about, anyway, I get it. But I remember in this session I did and was joking at the beginning, my favorite introduction anybody ever did was to say that you're going to have a great time with Donna. It's a lot of fun, but by the time you're done, you'll want to throw up, because she's going to have you so scared. And I'm like, you're welcome. So, but at the end, and I'm talking about this, and I mentioned when I say that, a guy at the back of the room slams his pen down. And he goes, there it is. There's the throw up. They're going to notify the patients. There's the throw up.
I know.
So, it is. That's the thing. And if they're not, I can't get people to get it. So, anyway, there's more detail in this report. If you're the partners, you get a lot of detail. I haven't seen so much if they release the full one. But this is in there. They do discuss a little bit more about critical infrastructure and healthcare, which is critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure comes up again shortly in a general standard, but healthcare is featured in their ransomware section because of how much trouble is happening. So you need to hear that message. And anything we can do to help get that out, we certainly need to start doing. And then it's David's favorite topic.
Yeah, I was going to say it's yours as of today, but
not funny. Yeah, I am dealing with one I'm not, but I am.
Yeah. So business email compromise. I don't know, man. Maybe we just do a whole show on that.
Yeah.
Because people still don't get it. Like you got to have more security in your email. You can't just rely on the default security. And oh, by the way, you're probably not even using that to its fullest degree.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm dealing with one right now, and I know that we had multiple layers that they got past, and the final layer that we have relies on the individual, and I am certain that they believe that they did their part. I know they believe it, but I'm pretty certain that's where the failure was. And not by they're human. They're human. And I don't think it's a malicious thing. I don't think I'm making a decision and lying. I believe I went through those steps because I do them every day. I see those pages every day.
Yeah. Which could be part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because at some point you don't see what's there because you're used to seeing what's there.
Yeah, your brain just says, I don't need to process that. I'm going to skip to the things I need to process. I know what to do.
It's almost like you walk in, let's say you've got something sitting on your coffee table. Like after a while, you don't see it.
Yeah.
The only time you notice it is when it's not there. And you're like, wait a minute, there was something right here. What was right here?
Yeah, one of my nephews did that as a toddler. He would you move something. I'm like, you're freaky. I'm waiting for his head to spin around. His birthday's tomorrow.
I got one of my dogs will go nuts when there's something new in the house. No matter what it is.
Yep, I have
like
one.
a new bag on the table.
Yeah. I appreciate that you're noticing it. Right. So, at this point, it is, I feel every Friday and or Monday, most MSPs should expect a BEC email compromise phone call or ticket or panic, or as I got text message. Unfortunately, for my client, I was at my no, I'm not gonna say. I was at my 40th college reunion already in the afternoon happy hour portion of the reunion.
So you were having bourbon while somebody else was having breaches. I got it.
I believe it was more like margaritas at that moment.
Okay.
So margaritas and mayhem. Maybe we need to do that.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So let's talk about how much business email compromise brings in for the bad guys.
Yeah, it's insane.
Because it is a staggering number. $2.95 billion.
That's right.
It brings in, or brought in 24. Now, to put this into perspective, that's $150 million more than the entire budget for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which has a budget of $2.8 billion in 24.
So CISA, that's job is to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The infrastructure and all of that, that's their job. They don't make enough. They don't make as much money as the business email compromise. And you can't blame them, just like what I just said. Yeah. It's too hard right now. We've got to make it better. But I'll tell you one thing, and I cannot say this loud enough or often enough. Get PHI out of your email accounts.
That drives me nuts.
Because this would not be so bad in healthcare if you didn't have PHI in your email accounts.
Yep. Don't use it to store PHI. Don't use it to send PHI. Don't use it to receive PHI.
No.
Just don't.
Or at least if you're going to, then delete it.
Yeah. And then delete the deleted one.
Delete it and delete the trash. I mean, make it part of the process that you delete it as soon as you do it. Because if you did that when these things happen, because they have gotten control of the account. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They have control of the account, and they have now accessed the account, which means they have accessed PHI. Period. End of story. You've got a problem.
Yeah.
So, and now they say that they're getting in, and instead of doing like in this example, I don't think they were in doing anything other than blasting, because they do have that division now in, their multi-level marketing approach where you've got the ones that are down here, and their supply chain job is to just gather credentials, harvest credentials. That's all they're wanting. And then they sell it to the guys who use it to do credential stuffing campaigns, who then find a way in and sell it to the people who actually get into the networks and do things. So the people in these email accounts now are even like masquerading as the individual and asking people questions, and they see the way the person talks. And guess what? They're able to just have an AI review the whole thing and tell me who to ask and how to ask and get information, get approvals for things, because they're able to do that, which is a great segue to our other piece, that AI and IoT are just making things worse.
Yep.
Well, we already hit on IoT some, but it's like the 5 things in HIPAA, and one of them's medical devices, and everybody's like, why are you doing medical devices? Why are you doing? Because we don't want to wait until it's bad to deal with them. And this is why. So first we have the AI thing. And in the report, they were talking about server-side request forgery, or SSRF. So these used to be, they were really tricky, high-end skills. But boy, if you knew how to do it, now you're able to get one server to trick other servers into doing things. Basically it. Let me get deeper into the network. So all the people that say, don't worry about that server, it doesn't have anything on it, here's why.
Yeah.
Is because they use it then to get to the more valuable, if you will, servers that have the stuff on it. So that used to be, it wasn't easy to do, so you didn't see it as much.
Until AI.
So now, there has been year over year, 2023 to 2024, when we've talked about over and over in 2024, how big generative AI, Gen AI, or what is the word I can't stand that I won't let myself say?
Agentic?
Agentic. Yeah, I can't stand it. Anyway, I'll have to get over that. Clearly, I've tried. But 2023, 2024, year over year, 452% increase.
Wow.
In the use of this complicated thing because AI lets you do it without the same level of skill.
Yep. This is what I mean when I say what you do this year can't be the same as what you did in previous years.
No, definitely. These are exactly why. So, between that kind of stuff, so now they can get deeper. We've already got these vulnerabilities in the IoT devices we know are not being updated, and they have vulnerabilities we don't even know about yet, apparently, built into them. And they take that and add the AI and then this open source software, which was a great idea until security came into play, because now they know how everything works. So once you find a vulnerability, all of them got the same software. So what I use to attack a camera also works on this, sprinkler system. There's the word I was looking for. So they said that Sonic Wall, just Sonic Wall, we're not talking across the world. We're talking just Sonic Wall, which, by the way, back to that 637 new variants, that's just the one Sonic Wall picked up.
Yeah, that does not count all the other security vendors.
That could have picked up others. Right?
Yeah.
So 17 million attacks on IP cameras in 20.
What?
That they prevented. Those are the ones they blocked.
Wow.
I mean,
how many IP cameras does one person typically have?
Well, I know how many I have.
In business.
Yeah.
Yeah. In business, there's one almost everywhere. But now in homes, they're almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Hello, doorbell cameras.
Yeah. And you see the cameras everywhere, and each one of them is a vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
So, not only do you not know who's watching you, you don't know who's watching you.
Hold on. Let me draw that
out. So they make a point of saying that in the IoT world, attackers are beginning to take note of the often weak defenses of connected devices, specifically those used in government and critical infrastructure. Healthcare is critical infrastructure. Medical device is one of the top 5 concerns. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh, man.
So we've timed it really close here, but I think almost perfectly, because they included in the report a quote from OpenAI. And I felt like this quote was a great way to kind of close this one out. You want to do it? You want me to?
I'll hit it.
Right.
So IoT attacks will continue to rise as more connected devices with weak security are deployed in critical sectors. Threat actors are shifting from opportunistic exploits to target attacks using botnets like Reaper and vulnerabilities in IP cameras and OSS components. Without stronger security frameworks, patch management, and threat monitoring, IoT devices will remain prime targets for cybercriminals. So there you go. There's your 3 things. You got to have stronger security frameworks. You got to have patch management. You got to have threat monitoring.
Wait, have we talked about those before? Maybe we should do an episode.
I think we've talked about every one of them every time. Which it always drives me crazy when somebody's like, yeah, our security's fine. And I'm like, okay, are you doing these things? They're like, no. I'm like, then you're not fine. Yeah. You're so far away from fine, you don't even know how to spell fine. it's like, I want somebody to say, I think my security is good, but I'd love to have you look at it. Or I'd like to have a second opinion or something. But the ones that are just like, no, we're good. I'm like, no. That answer alone tells me you're in trouble.
I like the CISO quote from a while back where it was, how is security? I think we're doing well, but the situation is dire. They can both equally be true.
That's right. Yeah. We're alive and well, but we are on life support. Oh, man. But if there's no other reasons that you should be looking into the PriceTech Bootcamp, I think we covered a few today.
Yeah. So
that's it for us. Be sure to share this out with somebody that you know and love or hate. Either way, we'll take it. So for Don and myself, just remember the HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.